So something that I was trying to explain to everybody about speaking up, like Shannon Alvarado, Dan Faber, Layla Missy Johnson, and a great many others, is that it doesn't matter how intelligent I am when these people can use the term mentally ill to deny me my basic human rights and my constitutional rights, my rights to a fair trial, when these people are allowed to torture me and get away with it by refusing to allow me to write a report, by treating me like I'm mentally ill. Then, when I try to turn them in, magically I'm not mentally ill anymore, am I? No, I'm not. See, when I try to turn them in, they call me mentally ill, and that's their excuse for not taking my report. Then, when they do things like that, and I try to talk to people about what's going on to try to get the help I need, they say, "You're intelligent. Obviously, you're not mentally ill. Obviously, now that we only have half of the story, we can sentence you because you're not mentally ill. You're highly intelligent." My intelligence didn't make any fucking difference when I was trying to turn it in, did it? When I was calm and collected, I'm sorry, I got my mustache sticking together because I put too much sugar in my coffee. But my intelligence doesn't matter. That's why I needed someone in person. That's why I needed an advocate. Obviously, I am highly intelligent, and they should have taken my reports to begin with. They should have listened to me to begin with. But they want to use labels as their excuse not to, as their excuse to, as Officer Holloway put it, human nature, not do their jobs. You are paying them to do this job, but they're not doing it. Meanwhile, my disabilities must not exist because I'm intelligent. Mm, that's a tough one. Lots of intelligent people have panic attacks. Lots of intelligent people have meltdowns. Lots of people who are intelligent have mental breakdowns. What we're dealing with, however, is the fact it depends on which stage of the situation that we're dealing with. If I'm trying to turn in a police officer, now at first I wasn't trying to turn in police officers. I was trying to turn in the Bollingers for what they were doing before Natalie died. The police wouldn't do anything. So I was trying to get help. I was trying to get help from people like Joanna Taylor Smith, people like Kayla Trujillo, people like Jeff Ritter, people like Kara Heller. See, these are people that I was dealing with before Natalie died and after. After Natalie died, they didn't want to have nothing to do with it because they knew they fucked up. Here's Nicole Peralta. Again, one of those people I was dealing with before Natalie died. Trying to help me get a diagnosis, explaining to me, "Hey, Sean, if you actually, because you are autistic, if you get the diagnosis, then it's illegal for these people to do these things to you. The state has to get involved. When people assault you, the state has to do something about it." So the problem is that the police hadn't done anything about it and still continued to not do anything about it. And then after Natalie was dead, they did everything in their power to utilize that to prevent me from being able to turn in the police officers who didn't do their job to begin with. You're mentally ill. You're mentally ill. Oh, we want to sentence you without allowing you to speak in court, only allow slander into the courtroom by police officers who are obviously covering for the wrongdoing of other police officers in some of the most corrupt police forces in Colorado and also here in Nebraska. Chapel does not have a good history of decent officers or decent sheriffs. Mike Jepson didn't like it here because he was working for a crooked sheriff and there wasn't shit he could do. Now he's a sheriff. That's nice. I wonder where he's the sheriff. I'm actually going to type his name up here. Nebraska Sheriff Mike Jepson. Sheriff Michael Jepson of Loop City. Let's read this. This is April 5th, or April 25th, 2019. Now, mind you, Michael Jepson, I went to high school with this guy. All right. I went to high school with both of his brothers and his sister. Governor Ricketts appoints Jonathan Nakila, Michael Jepson to state panels. Oh, and then it wants me to take a survey. Fuck that. Mike Jepson, he's a little different than you might imagine. He's kind of a stocky feller. He's not, well, I haven't seen him in years. He might be fat by now. I don't know. But last I knew, he wasn't a fat dude. He's got cat eyes. I mean that. He's got cat eyes. Like his pupils aren't round. They go up and down like a kitty cat. He's also got kind of yellowish colored eyes. But also, he was always good to me. Even when me and his sister were having issues over a fight that I got into with Zach Metcalf. That was back in high school. Always very level headed, always talked to me like a human being, and he's got a brother who's an actual psycho. Little Jason Jepson is an actual psycho. He's an actual sociopath. He could kill you and not care, and I do mean that. When it comes to the term mentally ill, when you go out of your way to interchange the word mentally ill with mentally disabled, because it is disabled. My disability is mostly how you guys treat me, how I am not allowed to be a part of your society, no matter how good I was, no matter how decent I was to you guys. It didn't matter. I wasn't a part of your society. And there are some parts that are understandable, like me not going to parties. Even if I was invited to a party, usually I didn't go. There was a few of them that I did go to, and well, I usually ended up cleaning up the mess. Like both of the Martindale's graduations that I went to, they provided a lot of alcohol to minors. And mind you, this is right on Main Street in Chapel, Nebraska, but this is also a well to do family. If you're a well to do family, then yes, the cops will turn a blind eye to you feeding alcohol to minors. But also, the Martindales were always good to me. Well, for the most part. When I worked at the American in Sydney, I worked for Pam and Rick Martindale, and Rick Martindale spent all of his time smoking weed and taking credit for my work. Fuck it. At least he shared his stash with me from time to time. But the problem that we encounter is that I'm not mentally ill. I'm mentally disabled. I have sensory processing issues, most of which have nothing to do with autism. They have to do with long term abuse. That's PTSD, or post traumatic stress disorder. The police who had done wrong, I had to go back to these police officers. I still, if I have an issue in this town, I have to go to those very same police officers. And there's a safety issue and a safety concern with that. Now, don't get me wrong, it's nice that Officer Holloway is willing to help and that Officer Fisher was able to get me in touch with the Autism Society of Nebraska. I'd made repeated calls, but the office apparently that I was calling was not the same people that I'm getting in contact with now. They're not the same people. They don't even have the same voices. I don't think it's the same numbers, but I wouldn't know because when I was here doing that before, it was on a phone that was actually stolen in Washington State. And the one that I had before that, where I was trying to call them, was a phone that I lost when I went down. You're going to find this story funny as fuck. I went down to Sedgwick to get some marijuana from the dispensary in Sedgwick. And I don't remember taking my phone to Sedgwick. I remember having it before I left for Sedgwick. I remember having it at Hanson's Texaco. But I'm pretty sure that I had it when I was over by Lucille's. And Drake Chambers and his father both worked there. Now, Drake Chambers is the sick fuck who he basically had sex with every girl in town because this town is a meth town, and every farm girl in America is fucking strung out on meth nowadays. He had sex with Jamie Curtis, had sex with Caroline Coffey. He had sex with a lot of people. He's got them big, long, girly eyelashes, and this guy was my brother's best friend in high school, by the way. I beat him up on accident. That's a good story, too. He and my little brother wanted to steal my pot all the fucking time. I used to smoke a lot more than I do now. Now I smoke maybe once a month, if that. Most of the time, pot's not going to help. However, that doesn't make me mentally ill. If you get drunk and you are raped, does you getting drunk make it okay to rape you? Of fucking course it doesn't. If you smoke pot and you get raped, does that make it okay to rape you? Of fucking course it doesn't. Now let's say that you were raped last night and you're trying to go to the police today, and it's police officers that you're trying to turn in. Now, you got drunk last month, and they want to use the fact that you got drunk last month as their excuse not to take your report and to lock you up and to take you to Scotts Bluff on a mental health hold. Now, let's imagine that they lie to a mental health worker in order to get them to go along with their little scheme to cover for the wrongdoing of that officer. It don't sound like much fun, does it? And now you've got somebody in a position of power who is allowed to do that to more people. That's a very scary situation. Now, if you are called mentally ill, you need to change that immediately. You need to correct them. Now, a lot of you guys, especially those of you with mental disabilities who are used to the mentally ill tag, you embrace that tag like a fucking idiot. In most people's minds, when they hear mentally ill, they think of Jeffrey Dahmer eating the genitalia of 14-year-old children, okay? When they think mentally ill, they think of Jack the Ripper raping somebody in London and chopping them up in a room. When they think mentally ill, they think that schizophrenic dude screaming about God knows what, walking down the street in the middle of fucking Denver, Colorado. All right, that's what mentally ill means to these people. You're not mentally ill, you're mentally disabled. You have a disability, and it is probably from PTSD. If you grew up in the system, or if you have been homeless. It is probably PTSD that you have. That's a mental disability. If they want to call it a mental illness, that's the thing with mental illness. Their definitions versus now we're talking about legal definitions. The legal definitions that they want to put down are not the same definitions that we have in the dictionary. And they're also not the same definitions that are conjured in people's minds when they hear those words. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are when they can call you mentally ill and get away with it. That's why you need an advocate. And it doesn't matter how disabled you are when they can say, oh, well, you're intelligent. You should have been able to do that. Well, no, I wasn't allowed to do that because you called me mentally ill back then. I try to turn in an officer. They say, oh, well, you're mentally ill. And then when I say, hey, I'm trying to turn officers, they say, well, you're intelligent. You should be able to figure it out. When they have the mentally ill tag on you, you have to have an advocate. Absolutely have to. So that they aren't allowed to do the things that they did to me. So that they're not able to abuse the system the way that they did with me. But I'm not the only one they do it with. Now let's talk a little bit about Christy. Who is Christy? Christy Kelly. She's a woman who was raped. Now, Boulder, with all of the negative attention that they have had from all of the rapes on their campuses over the last decade or two, well, they don't want that on the mainstream media anymore. If you charge them, try to charge somebody at Boulder campus with raping you, they're going to try to cover it up. That's what they're going to do. Not just on Boulder campus, in Boulder, period. Now, if you don't fight back enough, they say, oh, well, you couldn't have been raped. You didn't fight back. So we're going to charge you with false reporting. That's what happened to Christy Kelly. Now then, we've got Teresa Massilia. She got to encounter the other half of the spectrum. If you do fight off your attacker, then they charge you with assault and still don't charge your rapist with rape. Now, Teresa Massilia, when she was fighting this, did she go for the jugular and severely go after this person who raped her? No, she focused on the police for a reason. Because it wasn't the rapist who let himself get away. It was the Boulder police who threatened, harassed, and intimidated her. The same thing with Christy Kelly. The facts are the facts. The facts are, at the medical facilities that I was at, they wanted to claim drug use, but they didn't write down what drug use, did they? The only drug use that they could possibly write down is marijuana or drugs that they forced into. They made it very vague for a reason. Meanwhile, none of these facilities actually tested me for any sort of drugs. Not one of these places tested me for drugs. Not one. I want that to really sink into your head for a minute. None of them tested me for drugs. Now I want you to look at the situation at hand. When I was taken to these places, I was trying to turn in police officers at every fucking juncture. I was assaulted in every facility that I was in. I was assaulted in the jails for a reason. Now, there were several hospitals that I was not assaulted in, and I want to thank those hospitals for that. But the fact is, Paxton, Colorado, I was not assaulted in that hospital. Thank goodness. Cody Craig, treated me like a human being. Thank goodness. That's Candace Bondurant's boss, by the way. However, they did screw up because they have to give me hospital paperwork when I leave the hospital. I was never provided with that hospital paperwork. Candace was supposed to bring it home with her, and she never did. I never received my paperwork from the hospital in Haxton. Candace Bondurant was intimidated by police in Haxton, Colorado when taking her kids to school. She was intimidated again by them at work. And then she was intimidated by her landlord. I really want that to sink in. See, I knew that Candace's was temporary, and leaving her place was not a big issue. It was leaving under those circumstances. It was the circumstances that Candace had to put up with for trying to help me. That should never have happened. Meanwhile, all of my money, because I am disabled, is being eaten up by going to court date after court date after court date for nothing to happen. My public pretenders will not allow any evidence into court. They're not even willing to look at it. Not one of my public pretenders was willing to look at the evidence that I was trying to force them to look at. The stuff that I have written down from Graham shows that. The conversation between myself and Steve Tomlinson also shows that. By the way, that's here on YouTube. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are when they can use mentally ill as their excuse to have you locked up instead of look at evidence, which is what happened in every single one of these cases. Now, you listen to the conversation between me and Rayanna, it's pretty fucking obvious she was hitting those kids. It's also pretty fucking obvious that the police didn't do any investigating about that whatsoever. They made zero effort to investigate that. That's why when somebody has the tag of mentally ill, they need to have an advocate, similar to a guardian ad litem. They must have that in order to not be victimized, especially when they can utilize public opinion and the media to destroy someone's life, like what was done to me. My disabilities aren't that difficult to deal with in the right environment, but also that's dependent on the situation. With the situation that I've had to deal with since leaving Virginia, yeah, it's not easy to deal with. But also, if I could get a quiet environment to work in, literally the environment that I had that was taken away from me because Natalie was killed, that environment that I have been denied, and that money that I needed in order to be able to defend myself, in order to be able to just take care of myself, in order to have the time to do the things that I need to do. See, my sensory processing issues aren't a big deal under the right circumstances. I mean, if you and your friends are talking about football, I don't give a shit about football anyway, so it doesn't fucking matter. But you're friends of mine, and I'm glad to have the company. So it's fine, right? But then there's when I have to get something done, and I have to get this stuff done. I do need a quiet environment to do that in. The train going by distracts me. Having someone yell at me shuts me down. Hearing the TV distracts me and shuts me down because there are things that I need to do. And because I was able to mask my disability and able to pass the time with other people in social situations by basically just not giving a shit because it doesn't matter. Football doesn't fucking matter. I don't give a shit who you think is the hottest chick in school. I don't give a holy fucking goddamn about that stuff, so it doesn't matter. But when it comes to the fact that I need to gather evidence, which I have gathered repeatedly and had it stolen or destroyed, yeah, I need actual help. It doesn't matter how intelligent I am when that shit shuts me down. It doesn't matter how intelligent I am when I'm stuck in those situations. It doesn't matter how intelligent I am when I don't have the resources to do those things. It doesn't matter how intelligent I am when they can just call me mentally ill and not listen to a goddamn word I have to say. Fuck the police. Fuck the system. Fuck the government. Donald Trump wants to talk about fake news. Well, I've had my fair share of dealings with the fake news. A great many people, from Dan Faber to Missy Layla Johnson to Kayla Trujillo to Mandy Hughes to Shannon Alvarado, all told me, hey, I tried talking to the media won't fucking listen. The closest thing that I had to media was Jennifer something Kowski and that Josh feller who is Mike Boudette's friend from Sword and Scale. That's the closest to media that I got to talk to. Now, there was another lady who wanted to talk to me, and she just never called me back. But I have to admit, that is my fault. When I sent her my phone number, it was off by one number. However, I was also dealing with Teresa Orn at the time. And I couldn't get Teresa Orn to shut the fuck up because she's a goddamn alcoholic. Just like Shannon Alvarado. That's tough to deal with when you need help, and the only people that are actually trying to help you are too fucked up to even take care of themselves. Shannon Alvarado could not take care of herself. There is no way in hell. If it weren't for her daddy's house in Sherman Oaks, California, this is one of the rich neighborhoods of California, where the average house is worth $2.2 million. This is where Shannon Alvarado lives. But she's too fucking drunk all the goddamn time. And when she's not drunk, it's during the day. And during the day, yes, she takes care of her family. She is a stay-at-home mother. But that being said, I know a lot of stay-at-home mothers who don't get a free ride like that. Most of the stay-at-home mothers that I know, they have a husband or a boyfriend who works full time and has a decent job, and they still have to get government help. And because they're getting that government help, they're dependent on the government and they have to jump through hoops. Shannon Alvarado, she does get government help. Her dad is disabled, he's quadriplegic. So she gets money for him, but she doesn't take care of him. Two Hispanic nurses do, who don't speak very good English. That's who she has actually doing the work on that side of the house. On her side of the house, it's always a fucking pigsty. And that's not entirely her fault. Her daughter just basically runs around and tears shit up when it's out of place. Throws it here, throws it there, doesn't care. And she's one of those autistic people who is lower function. Now, a lot of the stuff that I have to deal with is people's assumptions. Number one, they assume that because I am high functioning, that I can't be autistic. And number two, they believe that the definitions and things that somebody has to deal with somebody who's low functioning, that I'm going to be like that because I'm autistic. Well, you know, my cousin's autistic and you're nothing like him, so you can't be autistic. Or there's the, well, you know, autistic people are violent and prone to outbursts and blah, 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 blah. Holy fucking shit. In order to get me to get violent, You have to be harming me or harming someone else, really harming them. And even in that case, the most that I usually do is try to get between the two of you so you're not hurting each other. Or you put drugs in me. If you inject me with drugs, you're going to get a reaction as soon as those fucking drugs kick in. If you put those drugs into me, I no longer have control of my actions. So don't put drugs in me. Don't be stupid. Now, there are some drugs that do help me. Actually, there's only one, and it's marijuana. And it only helps me under certain situations, stressful social situations. That is the only thing that marijuana helps me with. The only thing. Pain medications don't work on me. They don't. They don't work enough to stop the pain. But when they wear out, I feel the pain 10 times more. So I have developed a much higher tolerance to pain than most of you. I also have a naturally high tolerance to pain because of autism. I also, for a very long time, I didn't have any feeling in my head. You'd punch me in my head as hard as you wanted and I wouldn't feel it. That was from long-term physical abuse from stepfathers well, not stepfathers, from my little brother Michael's dad. He hit me in the head a lot. One of his favorite things to do was to shove me off of a wall. Your head hits hard, eventually you just stop feeling it. But the problem is, when you use the term mentally ill, people automatically start conjuring up, you know, sociopaths, mass murderers, people who are schizophrenic. And I already knew that if I spoke out against the police, that they were going to do everything in their power to play on that mentally ill tag. That they were going to do everything in their power to prevent me from filing a report against their officers. Now, I have tried time and again to do this over the internet, which is where most of these places suggest that I do it. If I'm being harassed over the internet, I have to go to the FBI's website and do it over the website. I need help in person. I need a quiet environment. If I'm going to do it myself, I need a quiet environment and the time to do it in. And I don't have the time to do it in or that quiet environment if I'm living in somebody else's house, stuck in public, or constantly moving from place to place. It's just not going to get done. That's why I need an autism advocate, somebody who can explain autism. And preferably, I'd like somebody who is high functioning and autistic to come in and actually speak. Somebody who has the same issues as me speaking is a lot better than having some state paid fucking crony. And mind you, I took a bunch of screenshots this morning of Regional West and Scotts Bluff, things that people had to say about that place. They're not fucking happy. They are not happy with that place. A lot of people have had the same experience at that place that I did. And not just on the fifth floor, that whole hospital. Police abuse their power, and so do those hospitals. When you have somebody who is a free paycheck, and mental health is a free paycheck, I'm going to tell you that first right now. Mental health is a free paycheck. These people right here, Corona Counseling, they were going to help me, right? Well, they didn't. They didn't help me. This one, you see how it says Jen? That's how you can tell the difference between these cards from before Natalie died and after. Now, these cards I needed to be able to show in my court date. I needed to be able to show these people that the slander by the police was slander, but my public pretender wouldn't do anything, wouldn't look at any evidence, wouldn't do her job, didn't even show up to multiple court dates. Her and her co-workers took part in the threatening, harassing, and intimidating of me. I want you to put that in perspective. I want you to think about that for a minute. While I was being told that I didn't make any effort, right there, that's effort. That is effort. Thursday, June 21st. Now, by the way, this one right here, I believe this is the one that I missed because I went to Joseph Lopez court date. I could be incorrect. If this isn't that court date, then I did go to this one. However, I'm pretty sure that's the one that I missed. Here's one from June 14th. I made it to that one for certain. Here's one from June 4th. I made it to that one as well. June 7th at 10, June 7th at 11. See what this one says. 3/7/17. This one was from before Natalie died. Here's another one. Tuesday, August 8th. That was from before Natalie died. These are all Nicole Peralta's cards, by the way. This one does not have a date on the back. This must be one of the first ones I got, or one of the most recent ones I got. Here's one from before Natalie died. June 13th at 11. I made it to that one too. Now, all of these cards that I got from Karen's that I made it to as well. 12/4/17 at 12 o'clock. Lindsay Metcalf. Both before and after Natalie died, I was going to see therapists, and it was costing me money. And then, when they had robbed me of my ability to go see them, then they went to court order me to go see them. I can't possibly go see my therapist and go to these court dates. There's no way in hell. Especially with public pretenders repeatedly not showing up and also not calling me to tell me that they're not going to show up. And then there's repeatedly their investigators on a different day. I'm supposed to meet with them, and they're not showing up, and also not calling me to tell me that they're not going to show up. So it doesn't matter if I'm trying or not, because nobody is doing their fucking jobs. And they're also not speaking up about it. Now, all of this stuff, if it had come out in court, it would have made a difference. But all of these people, all of them, are telling me, oh, well, I can't do anything. The courts won't listen to me. Bitch, excuse me? Oh, there's my opinion coming out. When I go in calm and collective, I get blown off. When I go in and they force me into a panic attack, we have major issues because they're doing it intentionally. I don't matter to them and I don't matter to American society because of the tag mentally ill. I must be wrong because I'm mentally ill. It must be okay to do these things to me because I'm mentally ill. My constitutional rights are okay to walk all over because I'm mentally ill. The term is mentally disabled. And every time that they walk over my rights like that, they say I should be able to magically do something about it. That I should be able to fix this because I'm intelligent. I am intelligent. I tried doing all of the things that they're telling me to do, and the tag mentally ill prevented that from having any progress whatsoever without the help that I was specifically asking for, which is people in person. So I used my intelligence and I broke the law to try to force someone to take a look. Following the law didn't do any goddamn good because nobody else was following the law. The Bollingers didn't follow the law. Their friends and these meth heads didn't follow the law. The police didn't follow the law. Even my own public pretenders didn't follow the law. The judges didn't follow the law. Nicole Peralta didn't follow the law. Kara Heller didn't follow the law. Jeff Ritter didn't follow the law. Jen Beebe didn't follow the law. But you guys want to be mad at me because I was forced to break the law because these people wouldn't follow the law. Many of them broke the law and slandered me repeatedly. Now, Nicole Peralta coming forward about the fact that I was going to see her both before and after Natalie was killed, that would have made a difference in court. That would have shown that Officer Amanda Jonas outright fucking lied. Repeatedly. Miss Peaches coming forward would have also shown that Amanda Jonas lied. That conversation between myself and Alyssa Rainwater also proved that Amanda Jonas lied. And of course, with that conversation with Amanda Jonas, you get to hear the jurisdiction thing. Lovely. Lovely to hear that. When they can pull slander from whatever jurisdiction across the country that they want to put into my court date, they can allow that slander into my court dates, even in that jurisdiction, telling me that I can't show any evidence from any other jurisdictions or that jurisdiction. Because I have assault against a police officer on my arrest record. But then again, the charges are everywhere that I go. Oh, he assaults police officers. It must be okay for me to harm him. Meanwhile, that police officer who assaulted me, he just paid out the city of Boulder just paid out $125,000 to Zed Atkinson over a situation that officer was involved in. Michelle Rodriguez is standing to look at some money from her assault by Officer Waylon Lolatai. The woman that he pushed, who was standing at least 8 feet away, the legal distance that she had to be. And Officer Waylon Lolatai pushed her, shoved her hard. Sammy Leon Lawrence, the fourth, he was more than 8 feet away. He was assaulted by the same officer. When they can call you mentally ill and have you locked away in a facility that is its only intent and purpose is to make money, and those officers bringing them people like that makes them money. This evidence, all of it, should have been allowed in my court dates. Matter of fact, the police should have looked at it before I had to break the law. The police should have looked at it before Natalie fucking died. And after she died, those police never should have had access to me ever again. After what happened on the 29th of December, with, I can understand the detectives in Natalie's case not taking my report. What about the 7 other officers who were there that night? including Officer Burke, who was let go of his department for a similar situation as the one with Waylon Lolatai that had him removed from Denver. And that officer, just like Waylon Lolatai, was hired by Boulder County, the Hobo Hunter County. And that officer, just like Waylon Lolatai, assaulted me in a hospital for trying to make a police report. When you try to turn in an officer, that's the first thing that they do when you don't have somebody to go in with you. The first thing they do is try to have you committed. See, here's the thing. What made me suicidal to begin with was the Boulder Police Department. That's what made me suicidal to begin with. When I hurt my back, the Boulder Police Department used that as an excuse to harm me repeatedly, to prevent me from getting sleep, to harass me, to intimidate me, and there wasn't a goddamn thing I could do about it. Not without help, because of the term mentally ill. And none of these people who promised to help me, none of them None of them have any sort of a fucking grasp on that. It doesn't matter how intelligent I am, I need an advocate. Someone to advocate for my rights. And no, you don't have to be an autism advocate. You don't have to be a fucking lawyer. You can just be a concerned fucking citizen that goes, hey, this is fucked up and you guys need to do something about it. Instead of telling me, I'm sorry, Sean, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck if you're sorry. I don't. What I give a fuck about is that I wasted my time, my energy, and my resources believing you because I had to. Because I can't do these things myself, no matter how intelligent I am, as long as they can say he's mentally ill and refuse to do their jobs.